it is Michelle here, and it is week 4 of our Slipping into Spring knit-along. This knit-along has been going on for 4 weeks today, so we're at our final chapter. That doesn't mean that you have to finish your project, it just means that, we're signing off with tips and tutorials. So, quick recap, we've had 2 projects that the knit-alongers could choose from. Project number 1 was Pressed Flowers Shawl. It is all done in mosaic knitting, which is slip stitch knitting, not fair isle, not stranded color work, and it's worked from the top down with a center spine, increases on the beginning and end of the rows as well. It's a 2-color project. It takes 200 grams of the main color, 100 grams of the contrast, fingering weight to DK. Needle size recommended is 4 millimeter, and it is designed by Amy Christopher. So it is a Ravelry pattern. I'll put the link in the comments below for more information that you might be interested in. Project number 2 is called Artus, A-R-T-U-S. It's designed by Natasha Hornby, and it is a 5-color project. Also worked from the top down with a center spine, slip stitch, mosaic knitting throughout, and some stranded color work and textural slip stitch in the main color. This is worked in a sport weight, and it is on 3.5 and 3.75 millimeter needles. So I do have progress on Artus to show you, and ta-da! This is the finished Pressed Flowers Shawl by one of our knit-alongers. She hasn't had time to block it. That will happen later this weekend. But I just thought it's just so gorgeous. I could put it on the mannequin and show it off to you. So this one, she chose the Allegria, which is our 75-25 merino nylon hand-dyed blend. And her colors are reindeer. That's the main color. It's semi-tonal. So you get lovely shades. And then for contrast, for the little pansy flowers, she went with Pindo, and that's a combination of greens and yellows and cinnamon and some rosy pinks as well. So it's got a nice spring vibe happening, and she did an awesome job. This is going to grow quite a bit. So what you see here on the mannequin, unblocked, is pulled in like an accordion because of the mosaic knitting. When it's blocked, it will expand in width and length according to the finished measurements. So feel free to say hi, let us know where you're watching us from, how much progress have you done on your shawls, and I will start to go over some of the tips for finishing your shawls. I also want to say congratulations to last week's incentive ballot winner. It was Linda Nicholson. Maybe she's watching today, or she'll be watching later tonight. And we will have our last trivia question at the end for the final incentive ballot, so please stay tuned. That will be in about 10 minutes. Okay, so I think what I mentioned last week is the finishing. So the finishing that's recommended on Pressed Flowers, the final cast off section, is a sewn bind off. And I will put the link below to that method. It is very time consuming, so you have to give yourself, probably 2 to 3 hours for that final row, and it does require long lengths of yarn because you're sewing with one strand, but you can't have the long strand to complete this final row. You have over 400 stitches at that point. So as an alternate, we're suggesting the Icelandic bind off, which is super stretchy, and it does give a similar edging. It gives an edging that has a tiny bit of a roll at the edge, and that will flatten out when it's blocked. So that is what was chosen for this particular sample. So I will provide the link tutorial in the comments as well. And then on Artus, Artus is hiding down here. I didn't quite finish it in the 4 weeks, but I am on the home stretch. So I've used all 5 of my colors, and I'm at the end, probably about 6 rows to go at the end of the final chart, and then I have another border section of the stranded color work here, which is a charcoal and off-white color. And then my final cast off is going to be the I-cord cast off. So I will put the link to that technique below too if you want to have something as inspiration to get you to the finish line so you know what's coming up. So I'm going to bring this one closer to the camera to show you the detail work. And we've had some great color combinations posted in our event page. Hope you've had a chance to see all those. So this again is worked from the top down with the garter tab, which flows seamlessly into the 3-stitch garter edging. And from this section down, you're continuing the central spine increase, the side increases, but you're also working entirely from charts to create this mosaic border, which is quite a hefty one. And I've chosen for my project the Milo yarn, which is a combination of merino and linen. So by next week I'll have it completely finished, off the needles and blocked, and displayed on one of the mannequins. Hi Catherine. Hi Beth. Uh-oh, Beth had to do some frogging. Well, you are not alone. I would say all the knitalongers who are doing artists, including myself, have had to do a little bit of frogging, either in the first section or the mosaic border section. And a few of you I've heard have also frogged some sections on pressed flowers. So there were a few questions about the repeat section. So here, I think you'll be able to see how many repeats you should have total before you start the border. So if you look along the center spine, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the border section here. The border section has the mosaic flowers closer together, and other than that, it's the same stitch pretty much as you've been doing. So that should answer that question. When you're doing the I-cord bind off on the artist shawl, the designer is giving you a little bit of a tip in the final direction. She is saying that you are going to work your I-cord, which should be worked over 2 short needles, like soft needles, as opposed to circular or the straight needles, because you're turning quite often. I have to see how many stitches you're working over. I think it was 7, but I don't trust my memory. How many? Yeah, it's a 7-stitch I-cord border. So that's what's going to give the artist shawl enough weight so the edges don't curl, and it gives it enough stretch. So she is suggesting that you work every row in the I-cord border, and then the next row you're going to skip a stitch. So that means you're attaching it to the live stitches, but working 4 out of 5. So that is her little tip. I think in the I-cord border for mine, it will be in the charcoal. For you, it might be a different color. So I'm going to give you a quick demo up at the camera how to sew in your ends at the back of artists, because you do end up with a lot of ends at the beginning of the rows when you're doing the color work. You need your darning needle and a pair of glasses if you have trouble seeing like I do on details. I have been sewing in. I've been pretty good. I've been sewing in along the edge. So I have this little grouping still to work in, and these. I put all my stitches onto one of our goddess cords so I could stretch it out and show you all the detail work, because of course on the circular needle you really can't see it as easily. So I'm just going to pick a strand here for sewing in. And the secret is to sew it into its own color. That way it's not going to show on the reverse or on the right side, because these shawls, when you wear them, chances are somebody's going to want to look at the inside and see how lovely it looks, or as you're wrapping it over your neck, sometimes the reverse side is showing. Okay, so here I am. I've got a strand of the green and I've reversed the shawl, and I'm just going to pull that green to the back and work it through the first stitch of cream, which also has the green going through it. So what I'm doing is following the contour of the garter stitch, and then I'm going to go down in the next cream stitch just as my stitches are interlocking together, and then up again in the next cream stitch. So I'm doing an S, really you can't go wrong with this technique because it follows the tension that you've created. It's not going to be too tight and the stitches virtually disappear. And then when I get to the stranding section from the mosaic work, I'm just going to go under there and then again follow where the cream and the green intersect. I'm going to go up, down, just like an S. That's following the rhythm of the stitches. I do that for about 2 inches, and then I cut my yarn, no knots, and I gently pull on it to relax the stitches that I've done, and then the end will disappear back into the knitting. So on the Pressed Flowers shawl, you really don't have many ends to sew in, and they can just be worked the same way into the back of the purl stitches. So under, over, under, over. Think of it like an S or a snake winding its way through. So the other 2 yarns, just to quickly show you, this was Milo, which many of you chose for artists because it had a good palette for the 5 color choice. And also this was popular for Pressed Flowers. Having the linen gives it good body and drape, and the merino gives it nice bounce. And then for those of you who like the brighter, bolder colors, you chose the Echo Tweed DK, which is all organic wool with 25% cellulose viscose. The little nubs in here or tweed bits are the cellulose fiber. So that one gives you a light, lofty shawl without the weight, and a tiny bit of a halo as well. So we will get more pictures as they get further into the colors and off the needles. It takes time. 4 weeks is really not a lot of time for knitting a shawl of this size, and you know, there's other things going on in our lives too, occasionally. So the prize that we're vying for is courtesy of Estelle Yarn. This is a basket of a brand new yarn called Linocot. It's a combination of linen and cotton, and these are 100-gram skeins in a beautiful deep green, and there is a pattern included as well. So one of you lucky knit-alongers will be hearing your name called. We're going to do the live draw next week on Thursday at 5 p.m. because of course Friday is Good Friday. I think I have my dates right. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, we'll do it on Friday. But somehow I think next Friday is a holiday. So we'll do it 5 o'clock Friday, so tune in then to see who the lucky winner is. And now for the last incentive ballot trivia question. This is the question for you to comment on with your guess or your answer, and we'll leave this open till Sunday morning so all of you have a chance to watch the video and post your answer. How many calories does the average knitter burn per hour? So knitting for an hour, how many calories do you think the average knitter would burn? Okay, I will leave that with you to give it some thought, and hope you've enjoyed working on your knit-along project this spring. We're thinking about doing a back-to-back knit-along, one that would start in April, of course, just because your needles are on the fly right now, so why not keep them in motion? So I will post more information about that possible knit-along if you're interested next week. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a great weekend. Find some sunshine every day.